Hi, welcome to today's Courageous Question. I'm Peggy Oliveira. Today's question comes from Linda, and her question was very short and succinct, but the answer is a little bit more complicated. But Linda wanted to know, how do you learn to trust? Whew, this is a big one. I think it's something that everybody really, to some extent, whether you have an abuse history or not, has struggled with. And when it comes to healing from any sort of interpersonal violence or abuse trauma, there's two pieces of trust that are really significant. And one is, how do you learn to trust other people? That seems pretty obvious that would be difficult. And so that's one piece. There's another piece that is, in some ways, even more significant and impactful, and that is, how do you learn to trust yourself? That one, I think I'll tackle in another video at another time. But how do you learn to trust other people when you've been betrayed? And, this could even apply potentially to, how do you trust in a romantic relationship if you've been cheated on? How do you build back that sense of trust in allowing people in? And this isn't something that I can fully, completely kind of give you like a specific thing about how you can fully learn to trust somebody in this short little video here. But there are some things that are really significant and important steps in learning to trust. And one is that recognizing that people who have hurt you, in whatever capacity that may have been, those are individual people. And maybe it's been one person, and maybe it's been too many to count. But those are individual people. When you look at all the people in your life that you've come across, there's a lot of people who haven't hurt you. Maybe not all of them have treated you incredibly well, but there's people in your life that you've come across, either a stranger on the street or friends or family members, partners, whatever the case may be, who have not hurt you. And being able to really allow yourself to recognize that, to really see how many people you've had in your life who haven't hurt you, who haven't betrayed your trust. And then thinking about, are there people that I've trusted, that I've shared things with, that I've allowed to support me, that I've shared a secret with, that I counted on for something, that I had to rely on for something? And hopefully there's people who have not let you down in that way. And you can look at that and think, okay, so there's some people that it's okay to trust, and there's some people that betray that trust. So first of all, just really then being able to recognize that you can have both of those things happening, that you can have within you experiences that people have hurt you, that you trusted, and people that maybe you really put a lot of trust in, or maybe you didn't think that much about it, but who have not hurt you and have maybe had an opportunity if they chose to, but they didn't hurt you. So really recognizing, okay, not everybody has hurt you. And that can be hard because you're always on guard. Maybe not consciously always on guard, but internally you're always on guard, waiting to be hurt. So that's the first thing that is really important to recognize. And kind of along with that, but as a also kind of separate thing, is recognizing that in order for us to really learn, mind, body, and soul, that we can trust people, is to allow ourselves to risk trusting people. And I know that that can be really hard because it is a risk. And in that risk is incredible vulnerability. But allowing ourselves to reach out to somebody and ask for support, or sharing something with somebody that maybe we wouldn't want to tell everybody. Being able to do those things, even when it feels scary, because it's almost always going to feel a little scary, being able to do that and then having that person hold that for us and not betray it, when you consciously recognize that, when you allow yourself to really look at, okay, it felt really scary, I wasn't sure I could do it, I shared something with this person, I asked this person for support, and they showed up for me. They didn't tell other people. They didn't let me down. Consciously recognizing that, like really reminding yourself, like playing through that whole experience so that you can really begin to see and feel, literally have a felt experience in your body of what it feels like to feel that vulnerability, to feel that fear. You put that little bit of trust in somebody, and start small, but you put that little bit of trust in somebody and they honor that. They value your willingness to trust them, and they hold that for you. And going back to that first point, there's probably been any number of people in your life where that's been the case. You may not have consciously thought about it. You may not have thought this is a risk. And then when they were able to hold that for you, think, okay, wow, they handled that really well. Or, okay, now I know I can trust that person. It may not have been a conscious thought process, but it happened. And so taking little risks, and I really do think it's helpful to start kind of small, not sharing really big secrets, or not asking somebody for something really big when you don't know for sure that you can count on that person. Starting small with asking somebody if they've got time to talk, or sharing something that feels a little vulnerable, like I'm having a hard day today. And then when they show up for you, they don't judge you, they don't criticize you, they don't berate you. They hold that space for you. They hold that confidence for you. And then really allowing it to internalize. Feeling that in your body, in your cells, being able to breathe into that feeling of what it feels like to be able to relax in that trusting. Reminding yourself that it's okay. There are people that you can trust in the world. Not everybody, but it doesn't have to be everybody. Most of us really only have one or maybe a few people that we feel we can really trust, like with the really big stuff. And some people we can trust with certain things, like you can trust that this person is going to pick up your kids on Tuesday after school, for example. There might be other people that you feel like you can trust with the big stuff. Maybe your truth, maybe your struggle, your shame. So there's different people that you have different levels of trust. And really, most of us really only have one, or like I said, a few people that we trust with the really big stuff. But it's a practice. One of the reasons that healing takes so long is because you have to have a lot of opportunities to practice the stuff that you're learning. You learn it, you understand it, you know, okay, I have to take these risks, I have to be vulnerable. But you have to do that over and over and over and 100 times over again for you to really feel that sense of trust, for your natural state of being to be that of trusting instead of self-protection. You need to experience what it feels like to be in that situation where you can trust somebody over and over again, for your body to release that automatic kind of tightening and self-protective way of being in the world. So as you continue to remind yourself of the times that you can trust, little ways, big ways, it helps you relearn that experience. One of the things, probably many of you, if not all of you, have listened to Brené Brown or read her books. And one of the ways that she talks about this, and this is one of the things that I really took from, I think it was Daring Greatly, that I really liked how she talked about it. I like how she talks about a lot of things. But she talked about marble jar friends. And I really like that. And if you don't know what that idea is that the people that are in your life, you have a jar and they can earn marbles basically. And so anytime they show up for you in whatever way, like it could just be they reach out to you, hey, how are you today? Or you tell them something and they don't tell it to other people, or they show up for you when you need them. They pick up your kid every Tuesday, whatever it is, that each time they do something to show you that you can count on them in some way, they earn a marble and it goes in their jar. And then after enough marbles, and what enough is might depend on what you're going to share with them or how you're going to trust them. After they've earned enough marbles, then they are a person that, as she talks about it, has kind of earned the right to hearing some of those bigger things, to earning your trust to be counted on in certain circumstances. An example in my own life, when years ago, I met a friend in community college, and we had so much in common, it was kind of scary. And we considered each other really good friends, and we shared a lot with each other. She also had an abuse history, and so we talked a lot about it. That's what brought us together. But unless we were talking about abuse, it seemed like she didn't really want to have conversations about anything, which I found really odd, but I didn't think that much about it. And around the same time, I had a neighbor that we didn't necessarily talk about a lot of really big things. She may have known I was abused, but we didn't really talk about it. But she was there. I sometimes, at that point, I think I was watching her son a little bit. She kind of kept an eye on my kids at times. She showed me that I could count on her in ways that I needed somebody to be able to count on. And in many aspects, that was around my children. And I felt fully, completely safe with having my children with her. And if she said she would pick them up, that she would pick them up, or whatever. I fully trusted her. But I didn't necessarily think of her as a best friend. Probably because I didn't share really big, deep things with her. I didn't know as much about her as this other person. And she didn't know as much about me as this other person knew about me. So in my mind, this other person was my really good friend. My neighbor was a really good friend who was my neighbor and whatever. And then one day I was in a car accident with my children in the car, and my car had to be towed. It couldn't be driven. And my husband was out of town, and I thought about calling the friend, the like best friend, and who lived down the street. She didn't have children. The fact that it was 9 o'clock at night wouldn't really have been a big deal for her to come and get me and my children and take me home. But I hesitated. I hesitated in calling her because I thought, I don't know if she'll show up. Instead, I called my neighbor, who, as it turns out, really was actually my best friend. I just didn't name it that because we didn't share such deep things. And even though she had young children who were in bed, I knew that she would have come to pick me up. I knew it without a shadow of a doubt. Fortunately, she didn't have to. I got a ride home with the police. But that's kind of the difference. Who do we have in our lives that show us, have proven to us in little ways and sometimes big ways, that we can count on them? That's trust. We may not think of it as trust. We may not feel it or see it as trust, but that's what it is. And every time you put yourself out there, that night when I called her, it was a risk. I could have asked and she could have said no, and it would have made sense if she had said no. She would have had to wake her children up. It was a school day the next day. I knew, or I wasn't thinking consciously about it, but the reality is it was a risk. But without taking those risks, we never really know. We never get to experience what it feels like to trust. So ultimately, it really is about allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, taking the risk with somebody who you feel has earned in some maybe small way the right to be asked to support you or to hold something for you. It's little steps, one at a time, that allows you to really begin to recognize that trust is possible, that there are people in your life and in the world who are trustworthy and hopefully who have earned the right to your trust. I hope that answers your question, Linda, and I hope for the rest of you, it inspires you to think about who are the people in your life who've shown you that you can count on them. And maybe even let them know that. Let them know that you value that. Recognize that the only reason that you know that about that person is because you've taken a risk in trusting them with that. If this sounds kind of like an interesting topic to you, if you'd like to practice a little bit more of that vulnerability and leaning into trusting, and have been looking for kind of a system and a support system to surround yourself with, I will be releasing my new online group program. Registration will be opening in April, and I will share the link below this video in the comments or in the description if you'd like more information about that. So I would love to be able to connect with you in there, but even if we never work together, please know that your journey, your story, and you matter. And trust is something that we have to practice and we have to strengthen. And you deserve to have people in your life that you trust with all kinds of things, both big and small. Have a beautiful rest of your day. See you next time.